Okay, when you think of Saudi Arabia, what comes to mind? Probably two things, right? Endless deserts and just unimaginable oil wealth. But what if I told you that right now they're building an artificial river, a river network that's twice the length of the Nile, right in the middle of all that sand? Yeah. See, behind that glittering facade, there's this hidden, existential crisis brewing. And it has absolutely nothing to do with oil.
I mean, just picture it. This is a kingdom where 98% of the country is just scorching sand. It's actually the largest country on the entire planet without a single permanent natural river. Not one. And yet, right in the middle of that exact landscape, they're building this artificial river network. And it's so vast, it's literally more than double the length of the Nile. It's just wild. So you gotta ask, right? How is this even possible? I mean, it seems to defy logic, maybe even nature itself. Where on earth is all this water coming from? Okay, so to really get our heads around this colossal project, we have to first understand the sheer scale of the water problem they're facing. I love this quote. It just perfectly captures the paradox, doesn't it? A nation just dripping in wealth, but at the same time, completely parched for the one thing we all need to survive. You know, this scarcity has shaped their entire history, and now it's forcing them to engineer a totally new future. A future that's a huge part of their Vision 2030 plan to build a modern economy that isn't just about oil. So, before they started building this giant river, the kingdom was relying on a totally different source of water. A hidden source, and they thought it was limitless. But, well, turns out it led them right to the brink of a national catastrophe. And that hidden source? It's called fossil water. Basically, it's ancient water that's been trapped in these deep underground aquifers for thousands, even millions of years. The best way to think about it is like a one-time inheritance from nature. It's not a renewable income that you can count on every year. So back in the 1970s, Saudi Arabia made this fateful decision. In a push for self-sufficiency, they decided they were going to grow their own wheat in the desert. And you know what? For a little while, it worked. It was a short-term success, but the long-term cost was just astronomical. By 2003, farming was gulping down a staggering 85% of that precious fossil water. And then by 2016, NASA satellite data came in and confirmed the terrifying truth. Their ancient aquifers were just vanishing. And just look at this. This visual really drives the point home. Look at that massive imbalance. That huge slice of the pie, that's agriculture. It shows how one single policy, a policy aimed at food security, nearly drained the country's entire hidden water reserve. Just incredible. Someone once described it as being like using a battery that can never be recharged. And that's exactly right. Once that fossil water is used up, it's gone for good. So realizing they were heading straight for disaster, the government had to make a really drastic change. They shut down the whole wheat program and basically locked away the rest of the fossil water for emergencies only. But that left them with a massive problem, right? Where was their water going to come from now? So, with their backs against the wall, what do? Well, faced with this crisis, Saudi Arabia didn't just look for a new water source, they decided to build one. We're talking about an unprecedented feat of engineering designed to solve their water problem once and for all. The scale of this thing is it's staggering. We're talking about 12,000 kilometers of massive underground pipes. To put that into perspective for you, if you laid all those pipes end to end, they could circle the entire globe. That's how massive this is. And the volume? Just as mind-boggling. This network is built to move 9.4 million cubic meters of fresh water every single day. That's enough water to fill almost 4,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools daily. It's just hard to even imagine. Okay, so let's get back to the big question. If there are no rivers and the underground water is now off limits, where is all this water coming from? Well, the answer is right at their doorstep, the sea. The magic behind this whole operation is something called desalination. Along the coasts of the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf, they've built 28 massive industrial plants. And these things work around the clock, just turning salt water into fresh water. They mainly use two different technologies to do it. The first is called multi-stage distillation. You can think of it like a giant, super efficient kettle that boils seawater in stages and then collects the fresh water from the steam. The second method, which is a bit more modern, is reverse osmosis.
This is pretty cool. It uses immense pressure to force seawater through these incredibly fine membranes. I mean, they're so fine that a salt molecule has no chance of getting through. Not even a tiny virus can make it. But, creating a river of fresh water out of the sea, it sounds like a miracle, but it's not a miracle without consequences. This massive industrial process creates an equally massive environmental challenge. So you have to wonder, what happens to all the stuff they filter out of the seawater? All that salt and everything else? Well, the answer reveals the dark side of this whole miracle.
329,000 tons. Every single day, this process creates 329,000 tons of waste. But waste of what?
It's this super concentrated toxic salt sludge. It's called brine. And all of it, all 329,000 tons of it, gets dumped right back into the sea every day. To give you some scale, that's like dumping the weight of over 1,600 blue whales into the ocean daily. And as you can imagine, this stuff increases the sea's temperature and saltiness, and it creates these massive dead zones where marine life just can't survive anymore. So to try and fix this new crisis, they're exploring some pretty innovative solutions. For one, they're developing these deep-sea diffusers that can spread the brine out over wider areas to minimize the damage. But even cooler, they're looking into something called brine mining. The idea is to actually extract valuable minerals like magnesium and potassium from the waste. So you're turning a pollutant into a valuable resource. Pretty smart. So you see, even the solution has created a brand new, massive problem. And this whole project, it's really a monumental bet. A bet that technology can solve pretty much any challenge you throw at it. This underground river isn't just a bunch of pipes. It's a statement. It's a declaration that human ingenuity can challenge and maybe even overcome nature's most fundamental limits. And to do that requires a staggering amount of power. Think about this. It's a surreal reversal of how nature works. They have these massive pumping stations that have to force all this man-made river water uphill to cities that are high up in the mountains. Just those pumps alone, they consume almost 9% of the entire country's electricity, just to move water. And maybe this is the ultimate symbol of this whole transformation. In 2027, Saudi Arabia, the country with 0 natural rivers, is going to host the World Water Forum. I mean, talk about a remarkable journey. They've gone from being one of the most water-poor nations on Earth to positioning themselves as a global leader in water technology. So this whole incredible project really leaves us with a big, profound question. Can technology ever truly conquer scarcity? Or does every solution we create just transform the problem into something new, something different for the next generation to have to solve?